Brian Walshe was supposed to be in court on Monday for a competency hearing, but that was delayed after the hospital said they needed more time to evaluate him. A judge ordered him to undergo that mental health evaluation and spend 20 days in a state hospital to determine his competency after he was stabbed in the Norfolk County Jail. Now, a jury trial is set for mid-November, but what's the likelihood that's going to happen? And what can we expect to happen in court today with his case on the docket? Let's bring in forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman and high-profile criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Michael J. Brown. Good morning to you both. All right, Dr. Carol, everybody wants to know, is this guy really incompetent? What do you say, please?
I say he's crazy like a fox. He is buying time. You know, this all started when his attorneys said that they met with him. Well, the alleged stabbing in his head happened on 9/11 of 2025. And, you know, first of all, I find that very interesting, the date. If, in fact, I mean, there is some thought that perhaps he paid the man to attack him or something like that, it would be interesting to pick that date to do it, because that would be when perhaps the staff is doing other things, or there is less staff because it's sort of a holiday, you know, a commemoration. Anyhow, putting that aside for a minute, he was stabbed in the head, and he was taken to the hospital, and he wasn't kept. I mean, this wasn't a major impact, and so the only excuse, the only explanation. Well, first of all, let me back up. Being incompetent to stand trial, we have to make it clear that it's a distinction from not guilty by reason of insanity. Incompetent to stand trial is how you are at that very moment, and that the trial is happening. And so that would mean that you have to, in order to be competent, you have to understand the charges against you. You have to understand the process, the legal process of the trial. You have to be able to confer, assist in your defense with your attorneys, and to be able to make decisions. So it is possible that this stabbing caused him to have PTSD, for example, in which case he might well be having problems that could interfere with his competency. But it just, given his whole history, he just lies all the time. He lied to the police when they came to meet with him because he reported his wife missing. He lied about the Andy Warhol paintings. I mean, this is his MO. So it's hard to believe anything that he's saying.
Definitely, Dr. Carroll. Yeah, his pathology is certainly problematic. Michael J. Brown, his trial's coming up. I mean, we're on the eve of trial. We've been talking about this case for a long time, as you know. What is the likelihood that everybody's going to be ready to go mid-November?
No matter what kind of delay there is. And Dr. Carroll hit the nail on the head in the sense of this competency issue is nothing about whether or not he's responsible for the crime. He's going to face the charges. It's just a question of, is he competent to sit at that defense table and help the defense prepare this case? Right.
Really good points. Dr. Carroll, let's talk about what a competency evaluation looks like. I'm sure you've done this many times, and as you already pointed out, we're talking about a present-day inquiry here and now, today. We're not looking backward at the time of the incident. What does that look like when you go to, let's say, a jail to evaluate a prisoner like Brian Walshe? What kind of questions do you ask him?
Well, first of all, it usually only takes one session, or it depends upon the person. It could take, if seems like there is a good possibility that they're not competent, then of course you want to spend more time, you know, to be certain of things. But, or either way, actually, you know, the 20 days, it's interesting that the judge gave him 20 days, or the hospital actually asked for 20 days, which is very good, because that means they're going to do a very in-depth evaluation. But you ask about, you start off with asking about who the people are in the court. You know, does he know what the judge does? Who is the judge? What does he do? What do these witnesses do? You know, all the basics. Then you do a general mental status exam, which is, you know, You look at his to see whether there's any kind of mental illness as well. You can give him questions that could determine whether he is competent, whether he is, able to answer your questions, basic kinds of questions, like, for example, a mini mental status exam, which is to determine whether there's cognitive problems. You get a good history from him. You try to see whether there's a disconnect between what he tells you is his history and what you know from having read the records. I mean, it's very important to read all the records. And but those are kinds of, you give tests of logic. Those are kinds of the basic sorts of things. Typically, if it's someone who is faking, they will go off on tangents and, tell you about how the devil made him do it, or the devil, is after him. Now, with him, they have appointed I don't know if he's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but a Dr. Burke, and he did a preliminary exam, and he said that Walshe does not have a history of serious mental illness or substance use problems, but did report long-term problems, focusing in school, and had reported a prior diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder and depressed mood. So, really, it seems like he might well be borderline, but that's all in cluster B of the personality disorder. Same thing with sociopathy. And he had interrupted sleep, he said. He had nightmares, he said. Again, he may well know what the symptoms are of PTSD.
Yeah, narcissist. What a surprise. What a surprise there. Boy, what an interesting conversation. Dr. Carol Lieberman, thank you so much. We'll be going to this case later today. We'll see if he's in the courtroom. Appreciate your time and expertise.